Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. We have a great show for you today. Just as promised last week, we are coming to you from Como, Italy. First on the docket, what do we know about Bryan Kohberger's family? Alec Murdaugh's friend and banker, well, he's headed to prison. We've got an update on the teen found in that singer David's trunk. A Good Samaritan gets released on bond after killing the guy that was trying to kill his wife. A man dies in court right before he was to plead guilty to killing his wife. We have this day in legal history, our quote of the day, and our dumb criminal. Let's talk about it.
All right, lawyer.
Good day, everyone. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for joining us. You know the drill. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you do, leave me a comment below and hit that little bell for notifications. And yes, go check us out on any of your favorite podcasting apps. Now, like I told you last week, I had to come to Italy. Didn't have to come. I guess I could have stayed home. But my son was getting married or is getting married, so I guess I should probably be here. So we spent the weekend in Milan. The lovely Miss Kristen and I met my daughter and her charming boyfriend last night, and then we headed over to Como. We are here at the Via d'Este Hotel. To say it is magnificent would be an understatement for sure, but we'll try to get a couple of pictures in for you as well throughout the week. But let's get to today's show. Before we do that, let me remind you to go to crimetalksearch.com. Sign up for that background subscription today. When you do, you'll be able to get a background subscription report actually emailed to you while you wait. And it's going to have information that relates to the person that you're searching about, email addresses, phone numbers, social media presence. You're going to find out if they have a criminal history. Are they married, divorced? Do they have liens and judgments against them? Everything you want to know, and most importantly, criminal history. Are they on one of those lists that they have to register for? Go to crimetalksearch.com. Sign up today. You're going to be happy that you did. And as a quick reminder,
We gave these out. We gave these out at a CrimeCon. Everybody wants one. And guess what? They're flying off the shelves like hotcakes. If you want one, you better go get them now. One, only $5. Ladies and gentlemen, go check it out when you go to the link also. And if you haven't got your baked in Colorado CBD dog treats, you know, if you love your animal like everybody does, you want to give them the best. CBD, right? They take out all the bad stuff and they give nothing but the good stuff. CBD dog treats baked in Colorado. Same page in the link below.
all right, let's go ahead and open the record for Monday, September 29th, all the way from Como, Italy. First on the docket, let's talk about the family background of Bryan Kohberger following his life in prison and his sentence, all right? So Bryan Kohberger, obviously convicted in the 2022 killings of the 4 University of Idaho students, has been sentenced to life in prison after accepting a plea agreement that spared him from capital punishment back in June. Now, as the youngest of 3 siblings, he is the son of Michael Kohberger Jr. and Mary Ann Kohberger, and brother to Amanda and Melissa Kohberger. His family has remained involved in the case, offering public support while navigating the legal proceedings. Now, the victim, obviously Kaylee Gonsalves, Madison Mogan, Zaina Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, were killed by stabbing in their off-campus residence back in November of 2022. Police arrested Kohberger at his family home in Pennsylvania in December of 2022. Now, in response to the arrest, the family released a statement via his legal counsel affirming their cooperation with investigators and emphasizing the importance of the presumption of innocence. Now, the statement conveyed profound sorrow for the victim's family and included prayers for their well-being. So let's give you a quick overview of the family. Michael Kohberger Jr. He served as a maintenance employee for the Pleasant Valley School District from 2006 to 2019. And shortly after the Kohberger incident, he traveled to Washington State to accompany his son on a cross-country drive back to their Pennsylvania home in Albrightsville, covering approximately 2,500 miles in the white Hyundai Elantra, which later became a key element in the investigation against Kohberger. Now, in May of 2023, both parents were summoned to appear before a grand jury, despite efforts by their attorney to contest the subpoenas. Additionally, records show that in 2014, Michael reported his son to authorities after an alleged theft of a family member's phone resulting in misdemeanor charges against Bryan, though no jail was followed up. Mary Ann, the mom, she worked as a paraprofessional in the Pleasant Valley School District until 2020, assisting students with special needs. She has also contributed opinion pieces to the local newspaper, the Pocono Record to be exact. And in June of 2022 submission, she reflected on the issue of school violence in the United States, questioning potential solutions such as firearm regulations or mental health support, and urging a focus on protecting children. Now, Amanda, information about Amanda, the elder sister, is somewhat limited, but reports indicate that she and her sister Melissa lost their employment in March of 2023 following Bryan's arrest. Amanda has a minor background in entertainment with credits in the 2011 film 2 Days Back. And Melissa Kohberger previously held a position as a mental health therapist in New Jersey, as mentioned in her mother's public writings. However, similar to Amanda, she was reportedly dismissed from her role back in March of 2023 amid the family's association with the case. So obviously, there's going to be lots of people talking about the Kohbergers throughout the generations to see if there's anything that could have come from it. And obviously, that was a very limited background, but it still shows you that, there's still a human element to every case, even on the side of the perpetrator. These family members certainly, I would think, didn't condone it, didn't know what was going on. And yes, it turns people's lives upside down, no doubt. Next on the docket, talking about lives being turned upside down, let's talk about the friends of Alec Murdaugh. That's right, a banker from South Carolina accused by police of assisting Alec Murdaugh in concealing millions of dollars from thefts in return for a portion of the funds has been ordered to serve a minimum of 5 years behind bars. Remember Russell Lafitte? He entered guilty pleas back just a couple of days ago to 8 charges in state court proceedings. This agreement is connected to a broader arrangement with federal authorities, anticipated to conclude all of his legal matters by late October 2025, with his release from federal custody projected around May of 2027. Now, Lafitte is among multiple individuals implicated by investigators in Murdaugh's scheme, which involved diverting funds from his legal practice and clients affected by fatal accidents or severe injuries. Now, Murdaugh obviously is currently incarcerated for life following his 2021 convictions for the murders of his spouse and son. He also acknowledged the financial misconduct, but maintains his innocence in the homicides and is pursuing an appeal. Now, under the state plea terms, Lafitte must serve an 8-year prison term, which will overlap with his 5-year federal sentence. That's to run concurrent. He may qualify for a reduction based upon good conduct and fulfill state obligations prior to completing his federal time. And the 54-year-old has also received credit for periods spent under home confinement starting back in May of 2022. Now, prior to the court hearing, officials noted that Lafitte liquidated shares in his bank to cover $3.5 million in victim compensation. Now, during the hearing, Lafitte responded only to judicial inquiries, while prosecutors detailed his involvement in the fraudulent activities. Although no affected parties testified at the time, they are scheduled to provide statements during the sentencing, which is now scheduled for October 13th of 2025. Now, Lafitte admitted to guilt in federal court for charges of bank and wire fraud back in early 2025. Following the reversal of his prior jury conviction by an appellate court in the previous year. His federal sentence is set for September 29th, today, in Charleston. Now, after his federal conviction, he received a 7-year sentence and began serving it before the decision was vacated. Both Lafitte and Murdaugh hail from influential families in rural Hampton County. Lafitte's relatives established Palmetto State Bank, an institution with a strong reputation that led to Lafitte, the state's top banker, back in 2019 by a professional association. And prosecutors argue that his esteemed status helped to facilitate the crimes, as Lafitte was designated to manage settlement funds for some of Murdaugh's most at-risk clients, such as minors orphaned in car accidents. Now, police and authorities claim that Lafitte earned up to $450,000 in non-taxable compensation for handling these transactions and issued substantial payments from the accounts to Murdaugh, who cited escalating debts linked to substance dependency. Now, the 2022 federal conviction was nullified by an appellate panel, which determined that the presiding judge had conducted a private discussion with a juror during deliberations, infringing on Lafitte's right to a fair and unbiased jury trial, which coincidentally is one of the main issues on Alec Murdaugh's appeal that is currently at the Supreme Court for the state of South Carolina. And we should be expecting that decision, I would say, within the next several weeks, maybe the next month. So maybe by the end of October, we'll have that, and we'll find out if Alec Murdaugh is going to get a new trial as well. Clearly, I believe the man is guilty, but I think the judge did him no good deed, so to speak, when he allowed in all of the financial transaction information under what is known as 404B evidence. I believe some of it would have been okay, but for it to go on and questioning for some 2 days, it kind of, let's say the prejudicial effect far outweighed its probative value. So I think Alec Murdaugh may get a new trial. I think it'll be the same result, but I think he deserves a fair trial because I don't think he got one the first time through. Next, an update on that singer, David, that spells it with a 4. That's right. Police in Los Angeles have determined that the body of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, discovered in an abandoned Tesla, belonged to singer David, had likely been deceased for several weeks prior to its recovery. Now, the remains were located on September 8th after the vehicle was towed to a lot in Hollywood. And this occurred shortly after what would have been Hernandez's 15th birthday. Now, according to the LAPD, specifically a Captain Scott Williams, the car had remained parked at the site for an extended period before being impounded, supporting the timeline of her death. Now, the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner has yet to establish the cause or manner of death, leaving open questions about potential criminal involvement beyond the concealment of the body. Now, David, whose real name is David Anthony Burke, has not been identified as a suspect in this case as of yet. His representatives have stated that he is completely cooperating with law enforcement with the ongoing inquiry. Now, investigators recently searched a residence in Hollywood Hills where Burke had been residing, removing several pieces of items of evidentiary value. Now, details about the relationship between Hernandez and the musician remain under review, with officials declining to provide specifics at the stage. Now, emerging information includes online images appearing to show Burke with a young woman resembling Hernandez, as well as archived messages from his fan community on Discord referencing rumors of a relationship with someone named Celeste. Additionally, an unreleased song by Burke mentions the name Celeste, and Hernandez's mother reported that her daughter had been involved with an individual by the name of David. Now, the LAPD continues to examine all aspects of the incidents, and the case is ongoing. I would anticipate, if they truly believe that David had something to do with it or somebody associated with David, I would once again expect an arrest within the next month or so. They're more than likely waiting on some sort of DNA type evidence, and when it's kind of a cold case like that, it doesn't get priority as far as testing. Next, an Ohio man released on bond after allegedly shooting a Good Samaritan in domestic incidents. So in Barbertown, Ohio, a 24-year-old man named Justice Oney, O-N-E-Y, faces charges of murder, felonious assault, and abduction following the fatal shooting of 25-year-old Nathan Flight back in April of 2025. Now, police report that Flight was assisting Oney's wife amid a heated domestic argument, attempting to escort her to safety when the confrontation escalated. According to the arrest affidavit, the incident unfolded outdoors near an intersection where Oney allegedly fired at Flight. Following the shooting, Oney reportedly compelled his wife into a vehicle at gunpoint and drove away, but the pair was apprehended nearby. Barberton police officer Marty Eberhardt described Flight as an innocent bystander who was simply offering support during a tense moment, noting he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Now, Oney was granted release on a $250,000 bond last week, requiring a $25,000 payment, and is now under house arrest. This decision has sparked some outrage and concern among Flight's family members. Jason Flight, the victim's father, criticized the ruling, stating that the judge allowed the accused to return home to his family while he himself is forever deprived of his son. He questioned whether the judge would make the same call if it involved her own child. Sarah Flight, the victim's sister, emphasized that her brother's life held far greater value than that particular bond amount. Now, a crowdfunding campaign established by Flight's relatives portrays him as a compassionate individual whose life ended prematurely while aiding a friend. It highlights the profound grief over lost opportunities, including the family he might have built and the positive impact that he could have had on future generations. Now, the family expressed ongoing difficulty in coming to terms with that tragedy. No good deed goes unpunished. Next, a man dies right before he was to plead guilty to killing his wife. Oh, isn't it just poetic justice when a guy like James Anderson, that 37-year-old charmer from Houston, Texas, decides to take the easy way out before owning up to his little hobby of, wife murdering? There he was, all set to nod along to a plea deal that would have gifted him a cozy 35-year stretch behind bars for offing his 34-year-old spouse, Victoria. But nope, fate, or maybe a sneaky overdose, had other plans. So here's what took place. Anderson struts into the courtroom at the Houston's Criminal Justice Center, probably thinking he's got it all figured out. But seconds after showing up, he pulls a dramatic feint, courtesy of what officials are calling a medical episode. A quick-thinking bailiff whips out some Narcan, that miracle spray for opioid overdoses, but it was a little too late. Off to Ben Taub Hospital he went, only to be declared dead on arrival. Talk about dodging accountability like a pro. Now, eyewitnesses spilled the information to local news, and just before the Oscar-worthy collapse, Anderson whispered sweet nothings to his lawyer and begged for a solo timeout. When he waltzed back in, he allegedly chucked something suspicious into a trash bin. Subtle, right? Then started hurling and looking like death warmed over. Boom, down he goes. What a showstopper. Now let's rewind to the real crime. Back in September of 2023, Victoria dials 911 from their Kingwood home, spilling that her husband was waving around threats of gunfire. Dispatcher catches a bang over the line. Classic domestic bliss. Cops roll up. Anderson plays Fortress with the door, but at least he had the decency to let their 3-year-old toddler toddle out unharmed. Poor kid might have caught the whole horror show, but hey, no scratches on him. After a nail-biting hour-long siege, Anderson finally waves the white flag. Inside, that's right, Victoria gone via a bullet wound. Shocker. Turns out she'd slapped him with divorce papers just a month prior. Timing, am I right? And the house had a history of domestic disturbances, because why not add some extra red flag? Anderson, by the way, was the big shot former head of special education at the Santa Fe Middle School, sidelined on administrative leave after his arrest. He'd been chilling on a $300,000 bond while this all dragged on. Now, an autopsy is in the works to pinpoint how exactly he checked out, because nothing says closure like waiting for lab results on a guy who couldn't even stick around for his own guilty plea. Next on the docket, this day in legal history. August 26, 1947, the United States Senate ratifies the Treaty of Peace with Japan, formally ending World War II hostilities and addressing war crime prosecutions. Remember those old civics classes? Yes, the treaties have to be ratified by the Senate. August 26, 1955, the United States Supreme Court issued its opinion in Brown v. Board of Education, which was obviously the case ordering school desegregation with all deliberate speed. Significance? Well, this clarified the remedies of racial discrimination under the Equal Protection Clause, advancing civil rights enforcement despite resistance by the states. On August 26, 1964, the FBI arrests members of the Mississippi Ku Klux Klan for conspiracy in the murders of civil rights workers James Chaney, Andrew Goodman, and Michael Schwerner. The convictions under the federal civil rights statute demonstrated expanding DOJ authority to prosecute hate crimes. August 26, 1968, the Federal Communications Commission issues the Red Line Broadcasting Company versus the FCC, which is the decision framework upholding the fairness doctrine for broadcast media. That used to enforce equal time for opposing views, balancing First Amendment rights with public interest until it was repealed in 1987. August 26, 1974. President Richard Nixon's resignation tapes are released under court order in United States v. Nixon, leading to his departure the next day. Obviously, the Supreme Court's unanimous ruling limited executive privilege, reinforcing checks and balances on the rule of law in the Watergate scandal. August 26, 1996, Bill Clinton signs the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act, reforming welfare into temporary assistance for needy families, known as TANF. Obviously, that developed a federal welfare authority to states, sparking debate on the issue of federalism and equal protection in social safety net laws. And on August 26, 2008, the United States Supreme Court hears oral arguments in the District of Columbia versus Heller, challenging D.C.'s handgun ban under the Second Amendment. The 2008 ruling recognized an individual's right to bear arms, revolutionizing gun law interpretations nationwide. What that means is they said Second Amendment is a fundamental right, so you have to have strict scrutiny to try and take away one's right to possess firearms. How about a legal quote of the day? Well, maybe a joke. I busted a mirror and got 7 years bad luck, but my lawyer thinks he can get me 5. Stephen Wright. And finally, our dumb criminal of the day. Because nothing screams genius move like turning a routine traffic stop into your personal demolition derby. In the brilliant state of Illinois, a guy named Keyshawn Jennings decided to spice up his morning by plowing straight into a police car that was minding its own business, lights flashing and all, while the officer was chatting with some poor soul over an expired tag. So, Fairview Heights' finest graciously dropped the body cam video from that September 24th escapade after the public apparently couldn't get enough of the high IQ entertainment. The footage, right? Pure gold. Jennings' masterful collision sends the squad car slamming into the stopped vehicle like a game of vehicular pinball, complete with smoke billowing out and airbags popping like confetti at a bad party. But wait, it gets better. Our hero saunters over, all wide-eyed innocent, and hits the officer with, "What happened?" The cop, probably stifling a laugh, shoots back, "You tell me."
I don't know, man. I've been drinking.
You been drinking?
Yeah, I've been drinking.
Okay.
And I took some weed pills.
Pills?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else in the car?
Nah, it's just me. I did that on purpose, sir.
What, you hit me on purpose?
Yeah, I did.
Why is that?
I'm bored.
You bored?
I'm bored.
Yes, because boredom is totally a valid excuse for turning the road into a wrecking yard. And let's not forget his post-crash wisdom. He's got insurance, but hey, who knows if it'll cover this little oopsie. The officer tells him to park it on the curb while they wait for backup and medics to sort out this mess. And Jennings, the model citizen, following orders like no big deal. Hands over his ID, then drops the real bombshell. "I hate cops, man." Well, color us surprised. Who could have seen that one coming? Miraculously, the folks in the original pulled over car walked away unscathed, getting off with just a warning for that pesky sticker. As for Mr. Jennings, he racked up over 10 grand in damage to the police car. Impressive budgeting skills there. Now he's cooling his heels in the St. Clair County Jail, facing a delightful cocktail of charges: 1 aggravated assault, 2 aggravated batteries, and criminal damage to government property. Who would have thunk it? All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's all we have for you today from Como, Italy. Enjoy the day. We'll see you next time. And remember, the Constitution matters.